Angular 2 is the shiny new framework coming this year, and we're about to hit Angular 2, and we're going to get version 1.0 of version 2. Angular 2 has been in about 2 years of development right now, and if you're coming from Angular 1, you may have heard a couple things about Angular 2. And some of the things you might have heard may have turned you off from learning Angular 2. What this course is going to cover is we're going to look at Angular 2 from the eyes of an Angular 1 developer and see how we can get started with that new framework. We're going to look at a lot of the reasons why Angular 2 looks the way it does and functions the way it does as compared to Angular 1. And we'll also look at the benefits that the changes have provided us. Let's get some things out of the way real quick. Angular 2 is a complete rewrite. If you have Angular 1 applications, you're not going to just be able to upgrade them by changing the version number in the script tag that you included for Angular. There's a little bit more involved when you have to do that upgrade. Now, if you're not too scared yet and you haven't run away, let's start getting into why Angular 2 is coming and the changes that were made and why it's really great for us as JavaScript developers. So why Angular 2? Angular 1 came out in 2009, and it's about 7 years old now, so the JavaScript world has changed significantly since 2009. There have been many different improvements, especially around the ES 2015, or the new version of JavaScript, also called ES6. And a lot of things were learned from the amount of Angular 1 applications that are out there. A lot of Angular 1 apps got built, a lot of things were learned, and now we can take advantage of ES 2015 and ES6. We'll also be taking advantage of one of the web standards called Web Components. And if you look around the JavaScript landscape right now, a lot of applications are being built on Web Components. As Angular 1 apps got built, we found that we wanted to do more with our web apps. We started to move them into mobile apps, and we started to want to render server-side. So right off the bat, while we're building Angular 2, we want to be able to accommodate all those types of apps. So Angular 2 is more seen as a framework more than ever, and we can handle all types of apps using Angular 2. We also have some huge speed improvements in Angular 2 as opposed to Angular 1. We're looking at about 2.5 times faster first render for our Angular 1 versus Angular 2 applications, and about 4 times faster for re-renders. And those benchmarks were back in May of 2016, so I'm sure that things have gotten a little bit better since then. The really great thing that I like about Angular 2 is also that it's built on some standards. Angular 1 did not ship with a style guide, even though we got really great ones towards the end of its life cycle. Angular 2 is going to fix all of that. We're shipping with a style guide straight from the start, and this will ensure that all of our applications have a centralized style so that when we move from an Angular 2 app into another Angular 2 app, we can hopefully know that every style will be the same and the structures will be easy to maneuver around. So on top of the benefits, let's start moving into building an Angular 2 application. That's what we're here for, and let's get to it. To start building Angular 2 applications, we have to start setting up an Angular 2 application. The reason for the large setup is because we want to leverage ES6 in the browsers today, but currently, browsers don't support a lot of ES6 features, so we have to do a little bit of setup to make sure that our Angular 2 code can work in our current browsers. So the biggest Angular 2 turnoff is the environment setup. We'll really focus on making it as simple as possible to set up an Angular 2 application, and these are the goals for this course. We're going to make sure that we understand the Angular 2 setup. It's really easy to get overwhelmed by jumping into Angular 2 and not knowing really what's happening in our own applications, so it's a good practice to know what's happening during the setup and why our app runs the way it does. Then we'll create our first Angular 2 application. And on top of that, we'll create our own super simple starter so that we can use this starter across many other Angular 2 apps. This way we can just have a quick setup right out of the box and hit the ground running. So if you're not too interested with any of the setup and you want to get straight to the Angular 2, there's an easy way to do that. We can skip the setup and go straight to building an Angular 2 app. You can skip these first few lessons. We'll put a link down below to the correct lesson to start you off, and then we can start building Angular 2 from there. But I really suggest going through these first few lessons to understand the setup. And if you really wanted to skip the setup, Angular 2 ships with a really cool tool called the Angular CLI. And the CLI is the command line interface where you can just go into the command line, you can install Angular 2 using npm install global Angular CLI, and then we'll use the ng command, new, myapp, and then ng start, and you'll be able to see your brand new Angular 2 application in the browser. For those of you that are still here and not too scared of setting up Angular 2, let's move forward.